the shine, trudging home.
Imagine being in the crowd. The lights go down, the band walks out, the first note hits, and then something goes wrong. Something no one in that building can process in real time because it is too sudden, too final, and too impossible to accept. These were not accidents that happened in hotel rooms or on tour buses far from the public eye. These were men who died on stage, under the lights, in front of the crowds who came to watch them do the thing they had dedicated their entire lives to doing. Some were at the peak of their careers. Some were legends on farewell runs. Some were playing small clubs on a Tuesday night, doing what they always did, because the stage was the only place they ever truly felt at home. Today on Metal Icons, we are covering 10 rock musicians who passed away live on stage, and we are telling the full story behind each one, who they were, what they built, and what the world lost in the moments the music stopped. Number 10, Country Dick Montana. Country Dick Montana was not the kind of performer you forgot. As a founding member of the Beat Farmers, he occupied a unique space in the roots rock and cowpunk scenes. A man with a booming voice, a larger-than-life personality, and a stage presence built entirely on rowdy, unfiltered, unpredictable energy. Every show with Country Dick had an element of controlled chaos. You never quite knew what was coming next. That was the whole point. On November 8, 1995, he was behind the drum kit at a live show in Whistler, British Columbia. Mid-song, mid-beat, he slumped over and collapsed. The crowd's initial reaction said everything about who he was as a performer. Nobody moved. People assumed it was a bit, another Country Dick moment, another piece of the unpredictable act they had come to see. Dark humor was his native language on stage. An unexpected collapse behind the kit? That could absolutely be Country Dick. He had suffered a fatal heart attack. He was 40 years old. Country Dick Montana was loud, fearless, and genuinely one of a kind. He went out mid-song doing exactly what he loved, leaving a crowd that didn't realize until moments later that they had just witnessed a final performance. In a way, though nobody would have chosen it, that is the most Country Dick ending imaginable. Number 9. Bruce Hampton.
Lived in the shine, trudging home.
If Country Dick Montana's death was sudden and shocking, Bruce Hampton's was something harder to categorize, because the night it happened was supposed to be one of the greatest celebrations of his life. May 1st, 2017, the Fox Theater in Atlanta. Bruce Hampton's 75th birthday concert, a full evening built around honoring his legacy, packed with friends, family, collaborators, and fans. The jam band scene's most beloved eccentric center stage, surrounded by people who had spent their careers learning from him. He collapsed during the final encore. And here is the detail that makes this story almost impossible to process. The band kept playing. Not out of callousness, but because Hampton was so well known for his eccentric, completely unpredictable stage behavior that nobody in that room was certain. But in those first moments, that this wasn't intentional. He was the kind of performer who could make you question reality on stage. That was his gift. When the music stopped and he didn't move, the truth set in. He was taken off stage and died shortly after. Bruce Hampton was a cult hero in the jam band world, a founding father of the Aquarium Rescue Unit, a mentor who shaped the careers of more Southern musicians than can be counted. His music was strange, brilliant, and completely improvised in spirit, and always following whatever thread felt most alive in the moment. His 71st birthday concert became, without anyone planning it, his final send-off. He took his last breath under the lights of the Fox Theater, surrounded by music. There are worse ways to leave. But no one who was in that room will ever be fully at peace with how the night ended. Number 8. Mike Scaccia. Mike Scaccia built his name in some of the most intense corners of metal. With Ministry, his lightning-fast tremolo picking and machine-precision guitar work became a defining sonic signature, one of the most identifiable guitar sounds in industrial metal history. He also played with Revolting Cocks and spent decades helping shape the sound of underground metal across the 1990s and into the 2000s. Offstage, people who knew him consistently described someone humble, kind, and completely dedicated to the instrument. On December 22, 2012, Scaccia was performing at the Rail Club in Fort Worth, Texas, a birthday show with his original band, Rigor Mortis. He collapsed mid-song in front of the crowd. Same story as several others on this list. The crowd thought it was part of the performance. Mike was known for an intense, physical stage presence. But the music stopped. He didn't get back up. He had suffered a fatal heart attack. He was 47 years old. He spent his final moments on stage with the band he had started with, the people who had been there from the beginning, surrounded by fans deep in the music. Mike Scaccia never stopped being a player in the truest sense of the word. The stage was where he lived. It is where he ended. Number 7, Sib Hashian. The setting for Sib Hashian's final performance is one that would have appealed to him deeply. A rock cruise in open water, playing classic hits for fans who had loved those songs for 40 years. Hashian had been the drummer for Boston, one of the defining arena rock bands of the 1970s. His tight, booming grooves were the foundation of More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, and the rest of the catalog that made Boston one of the best-selling debut acts in rock history. Those drum tracks are as recognizable today as they were in 1976. On March 22, 2017, he was mid-set on the Legends of Rock cruise when he collapsed behind the drum kit. He was pronounced dead shortly after. He was 67 years old. What stands out about Sib Hashian's story is the simple fact that he never stopped. Decades after Boston's commercial peak, he was still out there, still performing, still playing those songs live, still giving fans the music they had grown up with. He was not coasting. He was not going through the motions. He was doing what he had always done. His final moments were not in a hospital or alone somewhere. They were on a stage, in rhythm, driving the beat one last time for a crowd that was exactly where they wanted to be. There is something in that worth acknowledging. 7 stories left on this list, and the ones ahead include some of the most shocking, most heartbreaking, and most historically significant moments in live rock history. Which story has hit you the hardest so far? Drop it in the comments. And if Metal Icons is the kind of channel you want more of, subscribe right now and hit the bell. Let's keep going. Number 6. Les Harvey. Les Harvey was 27 years old. He was a rising star in the British blues rock scene. And what happened to him on the stage of Swansea's top-ranked venue in May 1972 was not a health crisis or a random tragedy. It was a preventable equipment failure that cost him his life in front of everyone who came to watch him play. As Harvey reached for the microphone during a Stone the Crow's performance, an improperly grounded mic sent a fatal surge of electricity through his body. He was electrocuted on stage in front of a live crowd, with his bandmates watching in real time. Stone the Crows were an up-and-coming band with genuine momentum, a passionate following, raw talent, and Harvey's soulful, gritty guitar work at the center of everything they did. His death at 27 put him in the same age category as some of rock's most mythologized losses, though his name is far less known than it deserves to be. But the direct consequence of Les Harvey's death was meaningful and lasting. His electrocution on stage led to major changes in live performance safety standards across the UK music industry. Equipment grounding requirements were tightened. Protocols were formalized. His death, as horrifying as it was, prevented other deaths. That does not make it acceptable. It makes it a tragedy that mattered beyond the moment, and a reminder that behind the production of every live show, there are safety fundamentals that are never optional. Number 5. Mark Sandman. Mark Sandman was not a conventional frontman by any measure. He played a 2-string slide bass. He sang in a deep, low baritone that seemed to come from somewhere below the normal range of human expression. He led Morphine, one of the most genuinely singular bands of the 1990s, through a sound built from jazz, blues, and alternative rock that was moody, minimalist, and hypnotic in a way that very few bands have ever replicated. Albums like Cure for Pain and Yes built devoted cult followings among listeners looking for something that existed completely outside the mainstream. On July 3, 1999, Morphine was performing at a music festival in Palestrina, Italy. Sandman collapsed mid-set. He slumped on stage in the middle of a song, received immediate medical attention, and was pronounced dead shortly after from a sudden heart attack. He died doing exactly what he was, commanding a stage without ever raising his voice. That quiet authority was the whole of his artistic identity. Morphine built everything on restraint and atmosphere, and Sandman was the center of gravity around which all of it orbited. His loss was sudden, and for fans of Morphine, genuinely surreal, like the final note of something that felt like it should have kept going indefinitely. 4 more to go, and we are moving into the stories that most people in the rock world remember exactly where they were when they heard. Did you ever see any of these musicians perform live? Share it in the comments. This is the kind of history that deserves to be remembered in full. Subscribe to Metal Icons if you haven't already, share this video with a fellow rock fan, and let's get into the final 4. Number 4. Nick Menza. Nick Menza defined what the drum chair in Megadeth sounded like during the band's most celebrated commercial and artistic period. Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia. These are not just platinum albums. They are records that shaped an entire era of thrash and heavy metal, and Menza's drumming was the engine underneath all of it. Tight, thunderous, precise in a way that amplified the chaos around it rather than simply keeping time inside it. He brought discipline to speed and made some of the most demanding drum parts in metal sound inevitable. On May 21, 2016, Menza was on stage at the Baked Potato, a small, intimate jazz club in Los Angeles, performing with his jazz metal fusion band, OHM. The setting was as different from a Megadeth arena show as possible. Just a few feet between the band and the audience, when everyone locked in together on something quiet and exploratory. Mid-song, Menza collapsed behind the drums. Some in the crowd initially thought something had gone wrong with the equipment. The music stopped. He didn't move. He had suffered massive heart failure and was pronounced dead shortly after. He was 51 years old. Nick Menza never stopped exploring rhythm after his Megadeth years. Progressive rock, fusion, jazz. He stayed curious and stayed committed. The Baked Potato wasn't a step down from the big stages. It was evidence of a musician who played because he needed to play, not because of the size of the venue or the number of people watching. He died doing what Megadeth fans first fell in love with him for, sitting behind a drum kit and giving everything he had to the music. Number 3. Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd, born Alex Hughes, was a genuinely unique figure in British music. A large, imposing man with a talent for outrageous, comedic, boundary-pushing ska and reggae that the BBC banned almost reflexively. His records were controversial in the way that only things with genuine personality can be. He was not trying to be provocative for the sake of it. He was just himself, and himself happened to be a lot for the establishment to handle. He was also, by all accounts, a performer who gave everything every single time he walked on stage. On March 13, 1998, Judge Dredd finished his set at the Penny Theatre in Canterbury, took his bow, and walked off stage. Moments later, he collapsed backstage from a massive heart attack. But the crowd's initial response, that this was part of the act, speaks directly to the kind of performer he was. His shows were filled with theatrics and satire and moments that blurred the line between reality and performance. So when he went down immediately after the final song, people genuinely weren't sure what they were seeing. It was real. He died with the performance still fresh, still technically inside the frame of the live show, his final moments inseparable from the stage he had just left. Judge Dredd lived exactly the kind of life he performed. He was banned, loved, uncompromising, and never once toned it down. He performed right up to the final second. And for that, he earns his place on this list and in the memory of everyone who ever saw him live. Number 2. Tai Longley. On February 20th, 2003, Great White took the stage at the Station nightclub in West Warwick, Rhode Island. Seconds into their set, a pyrotechnic effect ignited the soundproofing foam on the walls and ceiling behind the stage. What happened next became one of the deadliest nightclub fires in American history. The flames spread with terrifying speed. Smoke filled the room almost immediately. The crowd, packed inside a venue that was not built or equipped to handle this kind of emergency, rushed for the exits simultaneously. The chaos was total, and the window for escape was brutally short. Tai Longley, Great White's guitarist, was one of 100 people who did not make it out. Reports in the aftermath suggested that Longley had actually escaped the building and went back inside. Whether it was to help others get out or to retrieve equipment, no one can say with certainty. What is certain is that he went back in, and he did not come out again. Longley was known for his energy on stage and his genuine love for performing live. He showed up to the station that night to give fans a show. The idea that the night would end the way it did was not something anyone, the band, the crowd, the staff, could have imagined walking through the door. The station fire led to significant legislative changes around nightclub safety, occupancy limits, and the use of pyrotechnics in enclosed venues. 100 lives, including Tai Longley's, are the reason those laws exist. Number 1. Dimebag Darrell. There is no way to write about this without saying first what needs to be said. Dimebag. Darrell Abbott was one of the greatest guitarists who ever played heavy metal. Full stop. The tone he built with Pantera, the groove, the aggression, the precision underneath it, the way vulgar display of power and Far Beyond Driven and Cowboys from Hell sounded like nothing else before or since, is a permanent part of the architecture of what heavy metal became in the 1990s. He did not just play well, he defined an era and gave an entire generation of guitarists a new standard to chase. On December 8, 2004, Dimebag was on stage at the Alrosa Villa nightclub in Columbus, Ohio, performing with his post-Pantera band, Damage Plan. Seconds into the opening song, a man stormed the stage and shot Dimebag at point-blank range. The shooter had a fixed and delusional belief that Dimebag was personally responsible for Pantera's breakup. That was the entirety of his justification for what he did. 3 other people were killed in the attack. The chaos that erupted in that crowd, people who had come to see a heavy metal show on a Wednesday night in Ohio, is impossible to fully describe. A heroic police officer ended the attack with a single shot. Dimebag Darrell was 38 years old. The date, December 8th, is the same date John Lennon was shot and killed in 1980. That parallel was not lost on the rock and metal communities that spent the days following processing what had happened. His death is the most shocking entry on this list because it was not a health crisis or an equipment failure or a fire. It was a targeted act of violence against a musician on a stage, in front of his fans, in a moment that should have been completely ordinary. A Wednesday nightclub show, the opening song. Dimebag Darrell built something permanent in heavy metal. The music he made will outlast every year that passes. But December 8th, 2004, remains one of the darkest nights this genre has ever seen. A brutal reminder, as his story has always been described, that even in a room full of light and sound, darkness can find its way in. 10 musicians, 10 stages, 10 final performances that nobody in those rooms was prepared for. What runs through all of these stories across the different decades, the different genres, the different circumstances, is the same thing. These were people who showed up to do the work they loved in front of audiences who came to receive it, and gave everything they had right until the moment they couldn't. That is the thing about live performance at its core. There is no safety net. There is no edit. Whatever happens on that stage is real, and it is shared, and it is permanent in the memory of everyone who was there. Keep their music alive. That is the best tribute any of them could receive. That is our full list. 10 rock musicians who gave their final performance on the stage they loved. Which story hit you the hardest? Did you ever have the chance to see any of these musicians perform live? Share your memories in the comments. We want to hear them, and we read every single one. If Metal Icons is where you come for rock history told the right way, subscribe, hit the bell, and share this video with a fellow fan who needs to see it. This is Metal Icons. We will see you in the next one.